Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Irresistible and I am a manifestation and soul realignment coach. My channel is geared towards helping you become your highest potential so that you can create and live the extraordinary life that is your birthright. In today's video, I'll be explaining what is meant by 3D, 4D, and 5D consciousness and how that relates to manifesting. But before we get started, just a quick reminder that I offer both email and video coaching. So if you need help in manifesting any of your desires, then you can definitely find all the information in the description below. And of course, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon in order to receive a notification anytime I upload a new video. So let's get started. A few days ago, I posted a video about how we're all going to be manifesting faster than ever. And I explained that it has to do with the fact that we're now in 5D consciousness. I will link that video above. But I did get some comments asking me to explain and elaborate more what it means, because I kind of jumped in assuming that people are familiar with the terms. So I thought this would be a great video to go in and really explain what is 3D, 4D, and 5D consciousness in simple terms. So as the first step in understanding what we mean by 3D, 4D, and 5D, we need to understand what we mean by states of consciousness. Our state of consciousness represents our level of awareness of ourselves as the creator of our own reality. And that can be at individual level and it can be at collective level. So we're talking about many people thinking in this way. So that's the first step in understanding what we're talking about here. We're talking about our level of understanding and awareness that we are the creators of our own reality. Now, from the dawn of time until recently, we've been in what we call 3D state of consciousness. The 3D state of consciousness was really a level of being unconscious to the fact that we are the creators of our own reality. There was actually no consciousness in the sense though it was a state of very strong conditioning rooted in this victim mentality, survival instinct. We're the victims of our own reality. We don't have choices. We have to go with the system. And here, all of this, we're talking about the mainstream level. We're talking about where most people are, because for centuries, you've had those that were more evolved. But here, we're talking about the mainstream collective conscious, where most people are at. So the 3D represents a state of victim, survival mode, unconscious, that you have the ability to create your own reality. Generally, the person who came into their life lived mostly the same level of life. There was not that much expansion because they did not understand that they can be the creators of their own reality. And this is where I gave the analogy that the 3D reflects the ice. If you're looking at H2O, H2O can take several forms. It can be ice, which is a solid, it can be liquid, and it can be steam. So basically, 3D represents that state of rigidness. It's solid, it's dense. It's a very dense state of consciousness. And this has been the state of consciousness of the collective since the dawns of time. And starting in the 80s, we started to prepare for an upgrade in consciousness of the collective. And when the Mayans spoke about the end of time, they spoke about 2012. It's the end of time as we know it. It's the end of 3D consciousness as we know it. We're moving now into a higher state of consciousness. When we're talking about a higher state of consciousness, it's becoming aware that we are the creators of our own realities. And why do I say it started in the 80s? Because that's where you started to have more and more people or teachers come in who are of a higher state of consciousness. They actually are referred to as the 3 waves of volunteers. Because humanity was heading towards destruction, and it's all fear-based, there needed to be a change. And that's where you had people who come in who are of higher consciousness, who have this mission from spirit. They've come in with this mission to help shift the levels of consciousness on the planet. And it started becoming more and more mainstream in the 80s, though by far it was still not mainstream. It was starting to move towards that. And by the end of 2012, that was the tipping point of going from 3D to what we call 4D. And in 2006, The Secret came out. The Secret, though it was a very simple explanation of how manifesting is work, very, very basic level, it really brought the concept of us being the creators of our own reality to the masses. So a lot more people started to realize that, oh, so I do have an option. I am not the victim of my reality. My reality is a mirror of my own way of thinking. So it was the start, right? And in 2012, we shifted into the state of consciousness that is 4D. Now, 4D, if you're looking at the ice, liquid, and steam, 4D is the bridge between 3D and 5D. 4D is of the mind. 3D is physical matter, solid. It's very rigid. So we thought in 3D that we are living in a very physical universe. We're all in it, competing for limited resources. That's the state of consciousness where we're at. We saw everything as physical, rigid, and we're all there living together, trying to survive, right? In liquid form, we've loosened up the grip on, well, actually everything is rigid. We're starting to understand that we actually have some flexibility in our realities. We have some room to create our own realities. And it's like fluid now, right? It's no longer very rigid as in the 3D. The 3D is very physical. The liquid form is we're in our minds. Now we're understanding that, okay, if I control my mind, then I can see reality shift for me a bit. I can see things shift. I can start creating more of my desired reality. The thing with 4D is it is a short transition period. They say it's from 2012 to 2020, 22, whatever. It's that state, which is the bridge between 3D and 5D. And here it's very important to understand that we reach this level because the masses are now there. So when you're talking about something becoming mainstream, like law of attraction and law of assumption, more and more people are entertaining this idea that we can create our own reality. And what does this mean? You're going to have much more evidence of that happening. So that's where you're in a state of, wow, you know what? I think this stuff works. You're still, though, not 100% embodying it, because our core beliefs and assumptions, they kind of need to break down, right? Which is coming from 3D, where it was super hard. Our beliefs and conditioning was super rigid. You didn't have that many other options. Now it's more fluid, but it's still, we still have conditioning from the past. Now, the beautiful thing about this is as the young generations are coming into this concept that we are the creators of our own reality, it's much easier for them to manifest because they don't have the conditioning that someone who is of an older age is. Now, of course, here it's always an assumption, right? Like, don't buy into this, oh, I'm a certain age, I cannot manifest. The mere fact that you know this stuff, you're already of higher consciousness, right? But the thing is, it means we need to break down old structures. And then, of course, there's no surprise that during this period of time, we had a lot of things happening in the world that were causing these structures to fall away. So you had the fall of dictatorships, you have the exposure of people in power, people who have been abusing their power for personal gain. That has to come down, right? Because the people now realize, well, no, that can't be the way it is. It's no longer this way. I also have a say. I also can create my own reality. And of course, then you had these breakdowns happening. You had a lot of the things being exposed to the masses. And that's all preparing for 5D. So in 4D state of consciousness, we are now aware that we can create our reality. We have doubts, but we're becoming more and more aware. We manifest here and there, right? Of course, there are levels because there are people who are more advanced, but we're talking about the collective conscious. Oh, they're like now dabbling in this concept of I am the creator of my own reality, and they're working on changing their beliefs and assumptions around their physical reality. Now, 5D, which is where we are now, it is not just a concept that we're understanding, it's something we're embodying. So now this is where the magic really begins, because we're in steam here, like it's very unstructured, right? So when I talk about shifting realities, your reality is always a mirror of what's going on in your subconscious mind, in your state of consciousness. And when you are manifesting something, you're shifting realities. And though we are still seeing consistency in our own timeline, right? Because it would be very hard for us to stay grounded in a state where we're shifting realities. Although we're always shifting realities, there is an element of consistency in our timeline. So we're staying in an exact replica of the other reality, but with some minor changes. So it appears that things are unfolding and happening. But once we are in 5D, and 5D again has levels, we're going to be expanding more and more and more, where you're going to start to be able to shift realities very fast and notice the changes. Now, it doesn't have to be this way if that's not something you want, but it's going to become much more acceptable at mainstream level that these things can happen. And the science will at some point reflect that, right? So the science will reflect that of course, this is not going to happen in 2 years or 3 years. It's going to take years, but we are going to start seeing more and more and more of that. And I spoke about the glitches in the matrix, where you have people experiencing shifts in timelines that are very obvious. It's very obvious that I've shifted timelines because something is drastically different than where it was here. And this is why the more people that are aware that they are the creators of their own realities, first, we're all influenced by each other. And so my state of consciousness will be influenced by the state of consciousness of someone next to me. And so it's kind of, we're all influenced by each other. So automatically our consciousness will be raised. More so than that, we're also going to be seeing a lot more evidence of this, not just in our own lives and the lives of people around us. So then it becomes much more believable. This is really an era of anything and everything is possible. And this, in 5D, we're going to have many more people pursuing their passions, living their ideal lives, matching their passions with the way they make a living. There's going to be less focus on power. Everyone is powerful. The power structures are going to change significantly. Some of the things we've experienced have all been prepping for this stage in our lives. The control is no longer with one person or with agencies or with people who have the power or the money. It's now distributed much more so at an individual level. And that's how it's going to be. So 5D is a state of thriving. 3D was a state of survival. Now we've shifted into a state where we're thriving. So we're going to be manifesting like never before. It's going to be so much easier because that's where the collective is currently. The collective is that many more people are believing and knowing and aware that they can manifest or create their own realities. I want to point something out. It's not about being the majority. Something can go mainstream, but not every single individual will be on board with that. The key is those who are collectively conscious are much more powerful than the unconscious. So they have the ability to influence other people into awakening, basically. When we say awakening, it means they're becoming aware of their own individual power and ability to create their reality. It's not about the majority, it's about it becoming mainstream enough that it can't go back from there. I hope this explains 3D, 4D, and 5D in simple terms, and know that we are going to be really finding it much easier to manifest, to really live a life that is thriving. I hope that you liked this video. If you did, then please like, comment, and share, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video.